Tumeingia vijijini, mijini na hata jijini kukuletea taarifa mchana kutwa. Usiku tunaketi kitako, tunadadavua tukichanganua taarifa na makala muhimu yanayokuhusu wewe na familia yako. Ungana na Bernard Ngozi kwenye Open Forum Political Show kuanzia saa 4 usiku hadi dakika zake kila siku ya wiki kwenye
kutoka vijijini, mijini hadi jijini. Hii ni Sound Kanti Talk Live.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back for another amazing moment, another amazing episode. The principle remains Kamakawa Kamadawa. I am your host, Naisha Dizo, and I want to welcome you and everyone on the show for tonight, because tonight we're going to have an amazing show and amazing time. So what I ask you, please join up the show and also be free to participate and take part in this. So what I want to ask you, please invite somebody, welcome somebody. Let us stay here together and let us have this conversation tonight, because tonight we're going to have the updates of the day and what come out of the day. There are a lot of things that has come out during the day, but tonight we want to analyze a little bit and then get to understand and to know what is it or what didn't happen or where does it happen. So you are free to contribute and to add up to the conversation of the day, because you are a Kenyan and your opinion matters also towards our conversation. So if you are getting me, please just tell me on the comment section. I'm getting you from where you are getting me from, and it will be good. So I want to welcome you all, Team Kenyan, Team One Union, Team One Nation, so that we can have the conversation together. But before that, let me give you the updates of the day.
Kutoka vijijini, mijini hadi jijini. Hii ni Sound Kanti Talk Live.
Welcome back. So I want to urge you, invite somebody to watch with and don't watch alone. Please share the live, and also you are free to contribute and to share to the Sound Kanti Talk. So what I ask you, please invite somebody and let us roll together. So the updates of the day. First of all, let all begin the updates of our president, who decided to analyze everything from the side where he went to visit, and also other updates of the day. So let's begin the updates of the day from here, from this point.
President William Ruto and Zimbabwe's Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa on Monday co-chaired the joint summit of the heads of state and government of the East African Community, EAC, and the Southern African Development Community, SADC, that discussed the ongoing conflict in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. President Ruto warned that the conflict had the potential to spill over into neighboring countries and destabilize the EAC and SADC regions. The meeting, attended by 14 heads of state and government, some of whom were represented, called for the speedy implementation of the outcome of the joint EAC-SADC ministers meeting on the 17th of this month, which included a report of the meeting of chiefs of defense. The chiefs of defense had detailed a roadmap of medium and long-term measures to attain sustainable peace and security in Eastern DRC. This joint summit comes in the wake of an agreement between DRC's President Felix Tshisekedi and Rwanda's President Paul Kagame to meet face-to-face.
Better, it is getting worse, and therefore it is a source of concern, not just for DRC as a country, but all of us in the East African community, President Felix Tshisekedi and President Kagame for a face-to-face engagement that they have had in the last few days. Again, a clear demonstration on their part that they are equally committed to seeing to it that we resolve the matters in Eastern CRC and also that affect our countries and our region.
We begin tonight with Chief
That's one of the day, President speaking it out in Zimbabwe. So let us move on. Let's shift to the one. Welcome. The number of people are watching is still low, and the link to join up the studio is on the comment section. Please welcome up. Let us have the conversation together as early as possible. Don't wait until late so that you want to drag up to the studio. So another thing is, let us continue getting the update of the day. The next part, let us check out the Mother Kome output on the speech about the day. This is how it went.
We begin tonight with Chief Justice Martha Koome, who says the National Intelligence Service and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission will bolster the war against graft in the judiciary. The Chief Justice has further directed the formation of court integrity committees to check against corruption in the judiciary. CJ Koome expressed concern about allegations of corruption in some court stations, saying these are among new measures meant to ensure integrity in the corridors of justice. The Tuesday announcement comes in the wake of an onslaught against the Supreme Court, centered on allegations of graft that has sparked public debate.
The judiciary is changing tactics in the fight against corruption. The new strategy meant to ensure integrity is championed by an inclusion of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, and the National Intelligence Service, NIS. The new approach is meant to get security agencies and the judiciary working together to tackle corruption head-on.
On 22nd January 2024, at State House, the three arms of government resolved to forge a united front in the fight against corruption.
Formation of the court integrity committees will be key. They will be composed of the presiding judge or head of the station as the chairperson, the Law Society of Kenya representative, a representative of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, a police representative, a civil society representative, a court users committee representative, a court administrator, and integrity officer, and any other person co-opted by the committee.
We are specifically charging the judges, the magistrates, and all the court users with the responsibility of identifying and resolving service delivering gaps at the grassroots level.
EACC will not be a member of the Court Integrity Committee because of the mandate, but will play a guidance and training role. The Court Integrity Committees will allow court users to raise integrity concerns, promote ethical compliance, and enhance accountability in judicial processes.
I have issued a directive to all courts nationwide to conduct daily morning briefings with the court users, clearly conveying our message that our courts are corruption-free zones.
The launch of these guidelines will allow various state agencies to collaborate and exchange information directly to catch corrupt individuals in the courts. Also, courts will get direct reports about corruption claims.
We have also conducted systems reviews in various institutions in the justice sector, judiciary being one of them. That study is complete, and at the moment we are discussing and supporting the judiciary to deal with the issues that were identified.
Just by the press of a button, it will be easier to get criminal history of an individual at the investigation through real-time access of available information on him or her from the prisons, judiciary, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, or from police records.
The Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, is also out to strengthen the capacity of his office.
This therefore requires additional budgetary allocation for the office to hire additional prosecutors who will be trained to specialize in anti-corruption matters.
The Witness Protection Act provide safeguards for individuals exposing corruption. The more that we see good documents but tabled and shelved, the more members of the public grow impatient and are disinterested in any efforts to fight corruption.
As many bank their hopes on the newly launched anti-corruption strategic guidance framework, the focus now shifts to its implementation. Without proper execution, it risks ending like other similar anti-corruption initiatives that have failed in the past. Willie Lusige, Citizen TV, EACC, Nairobi.
That's how the Mother Kama decided to do. They decided that will bring justice in such a like manner. I don't know how they will do that, but I am surprised. But I hope so. They will stick to their words and they stick to their words as they are promising. Okay, as we are going on, let us watch this as we roll up.
The Chief Executive Officer at Center Careers powered by LCC. What does that mean?
That is powered by LCC because our registered company, official registered company is Remwell's Career Center.
Okay, all right. So we're expecting the arrival of Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa, who is the Executive Director at Usawa Agenda, and also Kennedy Achesa, who is an educationist and also an advocate of the High Court. As soon as they are here, they'll be joining the conversation. Like I told you earlier on, there's serious heavy rainfall. So if you haven't left your home, you may want to check through the window what's going on. But as soon as they join us here, we'll have them. Now, the front page of the Daily Nation, you'll find an interesting story about Uhuru's 26 billion shilling CBC blunder. They're talking about the 25.8 billion shilling World Bank project to build school infrastructure launched during former President Uhuru Kenyatta's second term, has returned to haunt President William Ruto. And they're also saying that taxpayers now set to pay for the past mistakes of state officials. The story continues on pages 4 and 5, where they are talking about those particular programs. Companies that obtained court order blocking ministry from cancelling their construction contracts, 8 of them, and infrastructure projects funded by World Bank remain incomplete years after launch. And they're also saying that 2022 is the year when firms that had won tenders to construct various infrastructure in schools signed contracts. This was after they had been informed that they had been successful in December 2020. Infrastructure development was just one component in the 25.8 billion shilling secondary quality improvement project financed by the World Bank. But you recall that shortly after the election, the CBC JSS was domiciled in primary schools instead of the earlier plan to take them to senior school or secondary schools that existed at the time. We'll get to that, but also recall that last week there were changes within government. The principal secretary has been managing a basic education department for a combined more than 10 years. Dr. Belio Kipsang has been moved to the immigration department. In his place, Dr. Julius Bitok, who is moving from immigration, will be managing the basic education state department. And those have been part of the changes of 14 new appointments of new PSs who have been nominated. There are PSs that have been moved. Some have been removed from state departments and given different jobs. And of course, we've seen creation of 7 new state departments. Mheshimiwa Sosion, what do you make of the changes at the State Department of Basic Education at such a critical time of transition for CBC?
I think the whole fact that people need to understand is that a ministry is guided by existing policies and existing framework. So change of persons, particularly when PSS changes, really the programs of the ministry. Mm-hmm. And considering that Dr. Belio Kipsang has really served very extensively in that area, and moving to another state department, mm-hmm. is okay. And having Professor Bitok to assume the new role at the Ministry of Education is good enough. I think what we should be asking is what job is cut out for Professor Bitok as he works to Jogoo House as the accounting officer and the principal secretary of the Ministry of Education. Now that we have lots of challenges, of course, Jogoo has many issues to really fix in the education sector, and that is not it's not strange to government, and therefore I think we should focus more on what the new PS will have to address as a matter of.
What would that be?
Well, according to me, the big thing is recalibration of CBC. That is the elephant in the house.
What do you mean with that?
The principal secretary is the principal secretary of basic education. That is dealing with schools all through up to grade 9. And if you look at the headline of the Nation, we are talking about challenges on the World Bank funding of infrastructure related to CBC. The biggest challenge in this country and in the education sector, the basic education sector, is managing the new curriculum rollout, which is now in grade 9, with grade 9 students taking their KJSEA exams this year and transiting to grade 12. And a lot of questions. One, a summative evaluation of JS needs to be done so that really we get real data on how the program has been implemented. Two, the president permitted the review of the curriculum, the review of CBC, and a lot of aspects have actually been reviewed in the past to make the curriculum work better for the country. And the transition, there's a big question of making mathematics an optional subjects in the 2 pathways. It's a major decision we've got to deal. You know, we are transiting now to the pathways, and therefore there is need to review the policy. You know, the whole process of reviewing the curriculum means certain changes must be done, and they ought to be done in a professional manner and in a manner that will help the curriculum to work. So Professor Bitok will have to apply his mind, will have to engage in professional and extensive consultation, and will have to drive evidence-based decisions within the ministry, because education sector affects all the households, and it is the most discussed item anywhere in the media space in the country. So there's a lot of work to be done. Jogoo is where somebody has to walk into the midnight to have things done so that we can run a seamless, undisrupted, and effective education system with quality outcomes that satisfy the country and that satisfy the learners.
All right. And for you, Joseph, what are your reflections about the changes at the Jogoo House and what priorities it should be for Professor Bitok and his team?
Thank you, Sam. I'm believing that Professor is equal to the task. And like we say, change is as good as rest. And what we are expecting is that we expect him to swiftly swing into actions and at least create the awareness, sensitization on where are we heading, what next after transition and placement. How are these runners going to come out from grade 12? Because that's the elephant in the room. Otherwise, we have been having a lot of mismatch actually between the academia and the labor markets to an extent that the A students suffer the most because they can do any career in the university. And career advice, I think, is one of the area I would sensitize and highly recommend that every school, especially now the junior school, because it's a make or break situation, so that we have career teachers who have the capacity to advise, because careers are changing slowly because of the evolution of technology and the AI. So there is a lot of disruption in the market, such that some of the careers that are existing now, these students will not meet those careers in future. And actually, one of the things I know no one is looking at is the grade 9 will graduate the same day with Form 2, current Form 2s. So meaning there will be a lot of competition for the labor market. And I'm actually feeling for the Form 2 right now, because they are choosing the subjects the old way.
Yep.
And now here we have a CBC who is specializing from grade 10.
Yeah.
So the competition will be high, and the PS now has to assure these people who are also in the last cohort of 844, what happens to us, even as the transitions happen. Because remember, there are other people on the pipeline on the other end. We are looking at the new people on CBC, but we also need to look at the other last cohort of 844. What happens to them?
No, I'm sure they'll be transition at the same time, because if you're in Form 2 now,
yes,
you'll be in Form 4 in 2027.
And the grade 9 will be where?
The grade 9 will be in the final level, grade 12, in the year 2028.
Some 2031, they will graduate 2031. Because
you're talking about the graduation?
Yes, in the university. Because we are in 26333. The other guy is still in 844.
Yes.
So they will graduate the same time, if at all we are going to take 3 years in the university. Yes, the first cohort and the last cohort.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I see your point, but I don't know if that has been discussed on what should happen, but we'll see. So remember that apart from just those changes within the State Department of Education, there are those others, including, I told you, 7 new state departments, some of them hived off from existing ministries, like the one from... There's a new department under the Office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary for Coordination of Government. There's one for Aerospace and Aviation Development, which will also be part of the Transport Ministry. You'll also see, and the PS will be Teresia Baika, who previously was at Devolution. Ismail Mahdi will be PS Special Programs at New State Department. Of course, Harry Kimtai has moved to Mining from Health. And earlier on, I spoke about Professor Julius Bitok moving to the Education Department. The other changes that we have seen are touching on several other institutions, and PSs have been removed from state departments to be deputy ambassadors, others to be ambassadors, including Engineer Tum, who's been named to Kinshasa. Professor Kisengana has been named an advisor, and Elijah Mwangi has been moved from mining to sports, and of course, Bilo Kipsang to immigration. Susan Khumicha makes a comeback to be permanent representative UN Habitat in Nairobi. And yeah, so that's the situation with those changes. Any reflections on those changes, Mheshimiwa Sosion, especially with the creation of 7 new state departments?
Well, that is the changes made by the president. And as you can see, there's a creation of 7 new state departments, which focuses on more specific programs within those state departments. I think this is going to enhance delivery. You know, in the principle of governance, what we call division of labor and delegation of duties. If you have more hands doing the different jobs and doing them more effectively, then the better. So I believe the government delivery system and programs, and particularly with respect to bottom-up economic transformation agenda, will be more enhanced, because then there are more hands, and with creation of more state departments, there will be more efficiency. And of course,
you think
as
so?
You can see, there is...
you think there's efficiency in splitting roles?
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
The more you split and the more you delegate responsibilities to different experts to do more work, then the better. Rather than, you know, when you look at the current setup, for example, where you have a minister who has to preside over several ministerial programs, and it is impossible to do it because it is one person. With 1 or 2 principal secretaries, it becomes difficult because our ministries are large and complex in nature, and there are many programs running at the ministry. So I believe this is a big relief with the entry of a few more principal secretaries and and designation of duties to them.
Yeah.
So to me, the more the people, and if they work professionally and effectively, then the better the outcome in service delivery. So to me, I'm optimistic, and of course, always, I'm very optimistic with the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which is a key government transformation flagship. In fact, that's a fact of the matter, and I hope that will be delivered better and more effectively.
Okay, and of course, at the same time, there has been a new department created, still at the Education Ministry, or Jogo House, if you like, and that is a department by the name Science, Research and Innovation. And a new principal secretary has been named, Professor Abdul Razak Shaukat. We needed that outside the Department for Higher Education?
Much. You cannot run. It was a mistake not to have a research department and technology department, because education is about transformation of the economy. It's about it's about innovation and technology, which Africa has missed since independence. The Asian countries focused on technology, research, and innovation. And you can't do much without driving research. If you look at the provision of the law that the country must put at least 2% of the GDP in research, we can't engage in guesswork, sir, in driving education and in transforming the country. We must conduct real-time quality research and get quality data, and so that it informs the technological advancement of the country. The science and technology is a real thing. We are moving to the fourth industrial revolution, where the digital, we do everything digital. Almost even the world of medicine, it is shifting digital. A doctor can conduct surgery all the way in Nairobi on a patient in Sydney, Australia. And so as a country, we must be up to speed to the space of industrialization and technology. And so the first department that must be well-funded, well-supported at the ministry is the Department of Research and Technology. And of course, in driving even education, we can't do guesswork. We must drive education via policies that are evidence-based, informed by quality research. So we can't be a country of guesswork in doing things. We must be a country that is driven by evidence-based data. Okay.
Interesting. Are you convinced that you actually need an extra department to manage science, research, and innovation? Because previously it was performed by PS Dr. Nyangala under the Ministry of Higher Education.
Maybe what we are doing is picking the specialists. From where I'm speaking from, sometimes we say when we are looking for people, we look at who can do the delivery better. Of course, we are in a data-driven economy, so we need the data, because you can see we are in the data age. So we need this data, and we need somebody who can be able to correct it, somebody who has the proficiency in it. And as Mheshimiwa here is saying about efficiency, maybe it will bring out the efficiency that we needed, and also so that we can see how resources have been allocated, how they are being used, and also we can see the accessibility of the same, so that we reduce the workload from one person, so that we have at least an approach that where I know even NEC are conducting a symposium, second symposium on data, because we want, even when we are transitioning these people, we want to use data. So that
you actually need a PS to do that. PS Nyangala cannot do that.
I'm believing it's something that we have to create a new workforce. I always believe new is better.
Okay,
new
more.
Is better.
You mean more? Because now we have 57 departments, up from about 50. And I'm reminded that there's also a gentleman by the name Abdi Dubat, who has been PS East African Community Department. He's now being moved to become Consul General, Arusha, Tanzania. Look at that. From heading a state department to heading a consulate in Arusha, at the seat of ESC.
You know, some of the positions in government,
they
are not rights. They are positions that you serve under the pleasure of the president, either ambassadors, high commissioners, principal secretaries, the president, the cabinet secretaries. You serve at the pleasure of the president, and you're transferable. You can be demoted, you can be promoted, and based on the wisdom and information that the president has. But I wish to circle back to the creation of new departments. And I dare say, having gone around the globe and having seen the different types of state departments that exist in ministries, I can give an example of Malaysia. Malaysia, you know, of course, they benchmark the general development in Kenya in the early 60s, and we are the same level, GDP, everything. And our former colonist was one, Britain. But then they developed very, very strong strategic plans. When I visited in 07, they were in the 9th Malaysian plan. And you can't do anything without planning. To them, planning is everything. And the State Department in the Ministry of Education in Malaysia is that of planning department. And they treat planning as a key component, is the fabric, is the main thing. And if we can question, for example, here in Kenya and check, do we have a planning department? Where is it subsumed? Under which department? How do we feel it? How does it link with research work, and how does it link with programs? And how does it drive education agenda? So I still believe, even education, if we were to create up to 5 state departments, it is possible to do so.
All right.
And it can be funded by the taxpayers for the interest of the country. Like if I was asked, I would propose, let us have a standalone planning department that will be able to deal with all issues to do with planning of programs and
so planning separate from the economic planning department.
Yeah, when you combine it together with economic planning, then it's going to be subsumed in matters of accounting.
Okay.
Let's have accounting and departments stay separately. So I still believe with the creation of more state departments, it is a strategy to make government more effective. We may not have a latitude or limit of doing
effective, not necessarily efficient, right?
Pardon?
Make government more effective, not necessarily efficient.
More effective and efficient. Effective and efficient, you can't draw a clear line.
Totally different, for sure, but anyway.
Efficient and effective.
Okay, now Kenyans, when we posted that we were going to have a conversation about the transition from JSS to senior secondary, this is some of the things they've been saying. Austin Odhiambo says that these students should be guided accordingly to avoid regrets in the future. The pathways should be availed in all senior secondary schools. So if a student may feel he is on the wrong path, the student may change the course of study. Lastly, making mathematics optional in curriculum is very dangerous. We'll end up having very few students taking the subject. The decision for grade 9 learners to choose career pathways in STEM, social sciences, or arts and sports science is a critical one, shaping the future academic and professional journeys. While early specialization can help nurture talent and focused learning, there are concerns about whether learners at this stage have sufficient career guidance to make informed choices. Factors such as parental influence, availability of resources, and societal perception.
Okay, I hope we have checked out that. And we are still about the matter about the school and the school issues. Also, the story of CBC is getting more hot, which is one of the things that we're gonna speak on today. And what do I say about CBC? CBC it has been having difficulty. Yes, but for example, like let us check out what happened today. Because the transition came out, but the transition didn't have clear follow-up. The transition came during the elections, during 2 presidents, and it brought up some hiccups whereby people never accepted the transition. Others were lagged. Also, the government never had good preparation for the transition of CBC. So it contributed to CBC for the education system to a little bit slow down, but I think there's still changes, but I'm not sure if the changes are good or well done into every school. Today we have experienced some kids here that are enjoying that, doing the practical for the first time with the real equipments than learning just theory, and yet you are being told by practical means can you solve the following. So it has been hectic for them and it has been hard for them. But today I think they have experienced it. Some students, not all, because the last time I was here and the last time I used to check about the story of CBC, it was at the time whereby many teachers were on riot, claiming that the CBC teachers are not being paid, they are not being, they're not fully employed to the government. Others, they just work, but even they don't know if they are teacher for the government because they were never been given the care, the teacher's number. And also they were claiming that even you found that the school is in a rural place, and even getting just data bundles to show what 250 kids that are in your class, anything that is supposed to be done with a computer class, it is difficult because they don't have even the resources or the equipment. Because of that also contributed to lack of the syllabus to delay, because Mwalimu is using one phone to educate almost 50 kids. So how will 50 kids share one phone with the teacher's phone? And then if the teacher is using the bundles, yet the school is not giving the teacher the bundles, how can we demonstrate such everything and give everyone to try with bundles? Meaning the teacher will use a lot of bundles because the school can't afford Wi-Fi. So if we see such a scenario, that this shows that CBC was not well planned. Also, another thing is that the time that they was transition, they were with transition, and CBC came up on board, and they tried to say that the granite students will have classes. Yet when the time transition came, you find that they dragged a lot because the student didn't have the classes. The classes were not ready. Also, the materials for the student for learning, they were not ready. Later material were delayed a little bit so that they can catch up. So still students still catching up. They're still preparing for the next level. So another way of seeing the next level being prepared. So are we sure that if this next level or the time that the case will going for this transition, will the next level be ready for it? Will the next level be equipped for it? Or also still have the same way dragging game? Do you feel the drag game will come to an end? The materials will be in the schools, and the kids will have a part and parcel to learn and comfortably appeal to the changes? Or will it interfere anything? Also, I've seen that the comparison about the CBC with the Form 2 students, whereby the one who are the pioneers of the CBC right now, they will graduate together with those students who are in Form 2. So it will have a challenge, because I remember one woman told me that he was one of the people, one of the students who graduated during the transition of 844, and it was difficult to get a job because they used to prefer somebody who goes through 844 than those who went through the other system. So it was so hectic for them even to get employment, even somebody to recommend you, because they used to prefer 844 curriculum. And now we are seeing the CBC. Will they prefer the CBC system than the 844 system? Or will they combine them together, or agree every individual because of the performance? Because I think the CBC involves so much for the kids and what he feels, or the career he feels to choose, so that he can begin working forward towards the career as early as possible. He can begin to manifest his career as early as possible, so that he can employ himself after school, or he can get the chance to work perfectly in the field where he has been going through or he has learning. So will it also affect the 844 system? For those who graduate together with the CBC class, will they be able to get a job, or will they be able to be given effectiveness like the way the other system has been given, or the way CBC system will be given? That's all the question that we need to be asking ourselves. And also, I would like to see your response on the comment section, because your response also is good. Let us check out this, because this is also another thing that has been happening upon the CBC. Sorry.
This pioneer CBC cohort is now in junior secondary school. And as they make the transition to senior secondary school in 2026, they will need to make their choices for the pathways that they would like to follow in life. That choice will be made in the second term of this school year. Bear in mind that this first term is basically over. Schools will close next week and are currently wrapping up their exams. So this is what lies ahead in the process. Placement of learners in grade 10 will be based on the following criteria. Learner's choice, which will be their subject combinations that they're already undertaking in junior school, and their school of choice. I'll explain the school of choice in a minute. Then there is also the matter of merit, which will be their academic performance in their grade 9 assessment. Now, the Presidential Working Party recommended that this assessment be 20% KIPSEA, that is the Kenya Primary School Education Assessment, 20% school-based assessments done in grades 7 and 8, and then 60% of a summative evaluation in grade 9. Now, there's also psychometric tests that will be conducted to determine the learner's aptitude and interest, with the talent to be determined by both the school and the National Examination Council. Regional balancing will also be taken into account to ensure fair access for all learners. Finally, placement of the learners will also be determined by the capacity of the schools that they have chosen. Issues such as space and resources that are available in the schools chosen. Now, to help them make this all-important decision, the learners are supposed to go through some rigorous career guidance and counseling programs that are done together with their teachers and parents or guardians. Things such as career development workshops, leadership programs, and extracurricular activities. But that selection of schools will be based on the pathways that the learners wish to pursue and accommodation. So that is the type of schools that they would like to go to. In total, the learners will be selecting 12 schools, 7 schools for the first choice pathway, 3 for the second choice, and 2 for the third choice pathway. Out of these, 9 will be boarding schools, 4 of which will be from the learner's home county, with the remaining 5 schools based outside their county of residence. The other 3 will be day schools in their home county. Now, all the schools must have at least 2 pathways, and this is how they're categorized. Remember that we do not have pure or full, if you like, boarding schools anymore. So the senior schools are either day schools or hybrid, which offers both boarding and day schooling options. Some of those will then offer all 3 pathways, while others will offer 2 of the 3. Also remember to note that we have vocational schools that offer vocational education to those that follow the stage-based pathway. We talked about that last week. And then we've got the special needs schools that offer education to learners with hearing impairment, visual impairment, and physical impairment. And these schools are also important in terms of giving them lifelong skills that are required for this. Now, there's a lot of questions about how this will work, and the gaps continue to arise even as this process continues. And that is why on the program tonight, we want to speak to Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa, who's the Executive Director of Usawa Agenda, and he joins me now.
That's one of the things that are happening now towards the CBC. I hope you are getting to understand more, because there's a lot of things that parents haven't understand yet. But CBC also is taking other parents so much faster. The syllabus is to speed than enough. Well, than somebody to understand it. But it's high time that parents, we should be able to cope with it and try to adjust ourselves and try to pull up, down, to make sure that we are at the same path with the CBC. Also, let us check this talk, because you have just listened to it. I just want let us just complete the sort of story that CBC, so that we can go to the next part. This when I speak about CBC, some people don't understand about it so much, but we'll get to more details, and we'll get to know that this, how does it operate as we are continuing. But we want to check this out, and then we will know, we'll get to know more details about the CBC curriculum and the CBC system, because the CBC system is now what we're having right now. So let us check out this so that we can have a clear picture of what CBC intends. Please invite somebody to watch it. Don't just watch alone, so that every parent can get this and every parent can understand this well.
Thank you, Yvonne, for having me. I'm happy to be here to participate in this important discussion. I see a few gaps. First of all, let me commend the ministry for providing these guidelines and for sharing them with the public in good time, so that there is room to interrogate them and raise a few issues that we can raise, and hopefully have them factored into the revisions, so that by the time we are applying these guidelines, they are tight enough to make sure that we get the best we can get as we transition this class to senior school. There are a few issues that I would want to point out. One is in the decision that all schools will provide at least 2 pathways. I hold the view that that should be the goal, but it should not be the implementation now. It should not be implementation now because a number of our secondary schools, mostly sub-county schools, are not capable of being STEM schools for now. It should remain in the plan that we will upgrade them to become STEM schools as well, but for now they are not. What do I mean by this? We have schools that don't have STEM teachers. We have schools that don't have any laboratory. And making them STEM when they are the schools that have been producing all the E's in math, all the E's in biology, all the E's in chemistry and physics, if you put a child in those schools restricted to study those subjects that those schools have been producing E's in, you have actually put that child into a tunnel to nowhere, because it simply means you have trapped them into definite failure at the end. So I feel that we continue to allow that there be some schools this time for this first cohort and maybe the second that will only be 1 pathway schools that will provide humanities, because of that limitation that practically we do not have enough time to upgrade those schools to be able to offer STEM by the end of the year.
2 questions with that. I mean, one is, this is grade 9. Yes, it is, the first cohort of this. It's been 9 years.
Yes.
To get us there. Also, the schools then that are able to provide STEM, won't they now all be crowded by, perhaps those that choose the STEM pathway? And per the government directive, I think they want, more than 60% of the students to pick STEM?
I will come to that, 60% as well.
Yeah.
But I think we failed to plan to implement CBC. We implemented in a hurry without a costed implementation plan. So we have come from a set of foundational challenges in terms of implementing CBC. And I think that is something to take into account. So we need to find an incremental path towards the ambition that we have of what we want to make out of CBC. So that is one. The second thing that is what you just talked about, KIPSEA contributing 20% of the marks that will actually add up to the total in grade 9. 2 important issues around that. One, I don't think it's fair to allow a child's future to be impacted by what they did when they were 12. When these children were sitting KIPSEA, they were 12 years old. It is not fair to let what they did when they were 12 to determine their path in life. Because when you add that score to the exit grade at grade 9, and placement into grade 10 is going to be influenced by merit, it means that you are impacting the kind of school that this child will be able to be admitted to. So that is one. The second is the fact that we have children in grade 9 who did not sit KIPSEA. So where does their 20% come from if they did not in the first place sit KIPSEA exam? So for me, my suggestion, and this is our suggestion as USAWA agenda, is that we have the final exam take 80%. at least for now.
The one they will do in
yes,
grade 9 at the end of this year?
The one they're doing at the end of this year takes 80%, and the other 20% comes from the school-based assessments. Over time, as we continue to develop capacities of teachers and reliability of the school, we test the reliability of the scores we are getting from these schools, we will be able then to say we want the terminal exam to take less, maybe 70, and school-based assessments to take 30. We can increase that over time after we test the reliability of this, because we know the reason why we got KCSE with a gun is because we think the invigilators will be under duress to allow cheating. How safe are the teachers who live in the communities who are awarding the marks for this school-based and marks which is going to contribute to the competition that we are now anticipate for the good schools at the end of grade 9. So I feel that we need to approach with caution, start with a smaller percentage, and then grow it as we determine the reliability over time.
Do you think the school-based assessments are standardized across the country? So is that a fair measure?
They are standardized, but it is the teachers who mark and input the marks.
All right.
And if there is undue pressure exacted on those teachers, even beside the undue pressure, the fact that these same teachers are evaluated in terms of how well their learners perform, there is a conflict of interest. It is a good thing, but let us start small. Let us allow that to contribute less, and then over time, we can increase that as we determine the reliability. That is the third thing, the second thing I want to mention. The third thing I want to mention is we have indicated in these guidelines that teachers are going to assess the level, they are going to assess the learners for the pathways that they take. Several issues arise from this, especially with the current cohort of grade 9. One, when we did a study last December, 35% of our schools did not have a STEM teacher then. TSC has had STEM teachers this January.
Yeah.
Selection of pathways is next term. Yeah. Have these teachers had time to even know the children and be able to assess them fairly and determine that they can take particular pathways? We don't think that they have had that time. But importantly, this is a hefty responsibility that is full of risks. There is risk of these teachers being subjected to undue pressure by parents who feel their children must take certain pathways. And let us recall that these are young teachers. They have just been hired, inexperienced. And two, there is also risk of teachers abusing this. Abusing because of one of the things that has been put in the guidelines, which says not more than 5 learners from the same junior school will be admitted to the same senior school.
Yes.
I have a case where the school was trying to prevent my friend's son from choosing Alliance High School because they had an interest in another boy in that class. They wanted to go to Alliance, and they had been told that Alliance will not take 2 boys from the same school. So in that context, there is possibility that some teachers may abuse this role if there is no mechanism to check that possibility, to prevent abuse, so that they tailor certain children to certain paths and certain children towards certain paths.
Do you think overall, and we'll talk about maybe where the solutions lie, and you've already started to touch on that, but do you think overall the learners are ready to make this decision? Because it is a life-changing decision. And in the guidelines that, we have referred to for our reporting, it does say that, at some point students would be allowed to change pathways. How that would work is perhaps something we can try and talk about. But do you think they are ready? Because this is supposed to be based on the teachers, the learners, and the parents working together towards making this all-important decision. Has there been enough career guidance and counseling, considering this is now going to be happening next term? They're going to be making perhaps one of the most important decisions of their lives.
So the way CBC was designed in the framework, junior school was supposed to be a place where there is constant interaction between the child, the teacher, and the parent. So by this time, we should not even be worrying about which choices these grade 9s will make. We would already be knowing.
It should be obvious.
And,
right?
and actually, in some private schools, it is not so much of a concern. They know the parents, the teachers, and the child have been talking. They are going to be able to make the right decision. In most of our public schools, this has not happened. There's been a big challenge in implementing junior education in public schools. And so for that reason, shortage of teachers, one teacher teaching a huge class, teachers teaching subjects that they are not trained in, and therefore not being able to really evaluate how those learners are performing in those subjects. We have a challenge there, which is why I feel that this year, most likely placement into pathways is going to depend just on two things: what the child expresses as their interest and what the score tells about the child. Because there hasn't been guidance, there hasn't been that interaction that was envisaged. So for me, I think that we can bite the bullet and say, let this year score and the child's expressed interest be the determinants.
As we add the other criteria
and then continue to develop mechanisms to make sure that going forward, junior school is capable of playing the function it was meant to play. Because junior school is the most critical segment of CBC as a curriculum. So I think that it's important to note. And actually on the issue of career counseling, previously we chose career pathways after Form 4, and you had career teachers in secondary school.
Yeah.
Primary schools don't have career teachers. So there is no one who has been guiding these children. Our suggestion is that COOPS starts to train career teachers in junior schools, so that these career teachers will be the ones working with these children from the time they enter grade 7, and be the ones interacting regularly with parents to make sure that by the time the child is getting to grade 9, the parent knows where the child stands and the child's interest is taken care of, and they are able to guide that choice.
Finally, Dr. Manyasa, what are the things that can be done? Because here we are. I mean, I know I've heard some people talking about reverting 2844. We're 9 years into CBC with this first cohort. So what can be done, at least for this very critical transition point that we find ourselves at? What can we do for the next term, for the next 6 months, and maybe even long term, in terms of making sure that they're ready, that the STEM schools are ready, that senior school have the right infrastructure, equipment, trained personnel?
A few important things. One, let us tighten these guidelines. Remove the gaps that are in them. A gap, for instance, that says that if you're going to join as a day scholar to a secondary school, you will only be allowed in it provided that you maintain the standard
of
that school. I don't know what it means, but if my interpretation is right, it might mean that if you are a neighbor of Alliance or Nairobi school, you cannot join if you can't afford the lifestyle in that school. That would be very, very,
that would mean day scholars would be paying just the same amount as...
I don't know what it means, but that is what is provided. It says you can join as a day scholar to a school provided that you can maintain the standard. And I think that is a very curious inclusion in the guideline that needs to be removed. I think that we need to accept that getting to 60% STEM is our aspiration, and we need to work towards it. But we should use this first grade 9, because CBC's promise to children was, we shall allow every child to pursue what their interest and ability enables them. We should use this current grade 9 to see how those interests and abilities are distributed before we determine that 60% will be this, 25% will be this, and 15% will be this. We can't start investing based on this presumption, because what we find might be different. One final thing that I need to say, which I think should be important for the long term, is that already the ministry is investing, the government is investing the highest percentage of its budget in education. It may not be possible to expand that.
Yeah.
However, we have something in this country called a housing levy, which most Kenyans have been hostile to. Why can't we convert that housing levy, starting this next financial year, into a school development levy, and get all the billions that taxpayers are paying, that are building houses many people really don't want and many don't need, to build classrooms and build laboratories, especially in our sub-county schools, and expand them so that we can be able to then remove these challenges of saying, we will ensure equity in allocation of learners. Saying we will ensure equity and regional balance is admission that some schools are able to provide better opportunities for learning than others. And whose children are these others that we want to live after we have put those that we put in through the regional balancing and everything else? Let us turn this housing levy into a school development levy and use all that money. We have time with that money to build labs in every sub-county school, to expand the capacities of those schools, and let all these children be comfortable to walk into the school next door without having to fight for the big schools. Because this year, if we are still on this path, the fight for the big schools will be worse than what we have seen before.
Yeah.
I think we need to correct that.
Indeed. Thank you, Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa, Executive Director of Usawa Agenda, with a rather radical proposal: convert the housing levy into a school development levy and develop the schools, enable this transition to be smooth, and make sure they've got, the right.
The CBC on board. Mambo yanazidi kuchemuka, mambo yanazidi kusonga mbele. I don't know if the CBC will accomplish that, because that's a bigger task, because the transition is getting, it's too fast and the time is going so fast. So I don't know how the government will align to it so that they can attest and reach to that, or they can come to that power as early as possible so that they can balance the equation. So the CBC is on fire, and the CBC is going so much and it's having a lot on board. So I ask Kenyans, please let us try to adjust also, and also let us allow the government do the transition. Let us do the transition systematically with clear strategies. Not that where they are planning something, but yet they haven't have the clear strategy to execute it, or they don't have the clear strategy to make it to appear or to amend it so that it can work. So let us not give so much hope, but let us try to make it happen. If you are parent, if you are contributing to some place of need towards the CBC, please contribute towards this. If you are not contributing towards this, also make sure do something, because it may not affect you directly, but it will affect you indirectly. Okay. As we leave also that, I want to take another gear, because we are winding up. We are almost winding up. I want to take this gear. We have done our first segment, and I want to check about 1 second point as of the end of the day, whereby there's one government official who was arrested on weekend and was supposed to be taken to get to court today due to the last man that Gen Z protest against finance bill. This young officer was criticized because he supported Gen Z, and then now he's on the risk of being arrested because of supporting Gen Z protesting against the finance bill.
Kuria Kimani, alias Kop Shakur, a prison officer who hit the headlines during the anti-finance protests for his criticism against the government, has been arrested. Kuria was arrested on Saturday by police officers based in Naivasha and detained at the Naivasha law courts. Police say the accused was found in possession of a toy gun upon his arrest. The court ruled that Kuria be detained for 24 hours as police conduct a ballistic analysis of the weapon to ascertain if it is a firearm. The matter is expected back in court on Thursday.
He was required to have been arraigned to court yesterday, being a Monday, noting that he was arrested during the weekend. The DCI held him with the concern that they are still conducting investigations. The DCI proceeded and filed a miscellaneous application seeking for 5 days to conduct further investigations. So in this regard, they needed to retain him further than Naivasha police station. The court, in its wisdom, held that the DCI should be granted 24 hours to finalize their investigations.
And that's what happening with the story of that young man. It's so sad because, hey, you can't attest to what's happening, but I hope things will get better and justice will be done and everything will be clear and point, because this is so serious, and indeed it's serious. Also, I want to remind you all about it's our responsibility to take this to another level or to work towards it, because indeed somehow things are not moving on in a good direction. Other things are not working up well. But let us be careful, most of the youth, those who are fighting for the nation, please let us fight while we are careful, and so much careful. Because of this, there's something that we call politics sometimes, and others getting into ditches where they don't have the power to release themselves. So please, let us be careful, let us tread careful, let us be on the watch out. As we leave that, I want to check out this also. This is another core part that we're taking about our show, and it's all about the IEBC. So let this open us for the IEBC, then we'll roll it up.
We've seen what has happened in various electoral cycles. I think this time around, we really need to have sober and independent-minded people who are able to exercise their expertise in matters legal, in matters national union or unity, in matters of safeguarding this nation for future generations. Because every electoral cycle, every single election cycle, we have always blamed the chairpersons because of the decisions that they make. I think this time around we have to move, and this might actually require us to amend the law, because giving the chairperson to be the sole person who makes the decision makes it very difficult. You saw what happened in the last election cycle, where it was the chairperson who determined who the president of this country was going to be. So it should be a collective responsibility. It should demonstrate expertise, and the chairperson process must include a thorough research on either, it could be a youth, could be a younger person, it doesn't have to be an older person. It has to be a person who has expertise in legal matters, in governance. It also has to be a person who understands where we've come from, because it should not always be about money. It should not always be about getting a job. You know, the biggest problem we have in this country is that we've been recycling people. If you see the kind of people who apply to become chairpersons and the people who are shortlisted to become chairpersons, there are people who have had various jobs in this country. So I think for the first time, we must consider a younger person, a youthful person who has got the interests of this country being united into the future. Because the problem we have is that we've always been putting older people who really don't give a hoot in hell about what happens in the next generation. Right now, because of the experience that we've had, the challenges we've had, the demonstrations that we've had in this country, the questions that we've had, we must think of someone who can become completely independent. You know, and that's the problem. We've never had an independent thinking chairperson of the Electoral Commission. We've always had a person who is influenced by their political interest or political affiliation. You know, and it becomes a bit difficult because there's no way you can have a chairperson who is not supported by the players. You know, the players are the political parties, we politicians. But I think because of where we've come from and where we want to take our country, this time around, we have to think outside the box and try to bring in young blood.
Young blood.
Yes.
But when you said that the chair declares who the president was going to be, or determines actually what was determines, is that accurate?
Yes, absolutely.
It's not.
It is accurate.
It's Kenyans who vote. Kenyans
vote, but ultimately, the person who signs and say that this is the person we want is only the chairperson.
After a process.
You know, yes, but Mbui has just told you, elections are not won during the voting cycle. No, it can be determined at the last minute. We know that.
That's I'm just wondering, given the framework that we have today, how exactly does the chairperson become the determinant of who the president is? I'm struggling with that because the process,
it's a very simple process, Sam.
Yeah.
He's the only one. The last election cycle taught me a lot. I went into a room with the late Chebukati, and we were seated there in the room. And he said, I'm the one to make a decision. I'm the one to sign this thing. Okay? So even when the other commissioners walked out, yes, absolutely. But when the other commissioners walked out, he was left alone. You know, I wish you were in that room with me. He was left alone to be able to say, I'm the one to sign this.
Isn't that what is required of him in the law?
But if there is a contentious among the commissioners, it should be a collective responsibility, not a single responsibility. It should be the commissioners all sitting down. In fact, it should actually be the majority all signing and saying that we've gone through the elections, we've gone through the results, and we are all convinced that this is the person who
do not agree with the results.
Then we go back to the elections.
You see,
it's simple.
There are 7 commissioners, inclusive of the chair.
Yes.
How can the interests, the desires of 22 million voters be determined by 7 people?
Because ultimately, what you're actually trying to argue contrary is that it should be determined by one person.
So no. That is not what I'm saying.
So the commission, listen, the commission, the job of the commission is very simple.
Yeah.
Is to be able to translate what the voters, have determined.
Which they have done through the forms.
No, they didn't. In the last election, you saw what happened. 4 commissioners walked out and they disagreed with the chairperson and said, this is not right.
Senator, what I'm saying is, so the voting happened at the polling stations.
Yes, it does.
The forms were filled and scanned and sent, and the physical forms eventually brought by the returning officers from the constituencies. So the tallying was continuing, the verification was continuing on the floor of the Bomas of Kenya. So by the time the commissioner or the chairperson of the commission is declaring results for such particular constituency, it has gone through several hands and eyes.
Sam, you're describing a utopian environment.
No, that is what happened at the Bomas of Kenya.
You know very well that in this country, that's not what happens. We all vote. We wake up very early in the morning, we go vote. But there are always people who are saying our votes have been stolen, And in the last elections, our vote was stolen. It's that simple.
Also,
the results which were declared were not the accurate. That's why we went to the streets.
And
we
stood. Disagreed with you.
That's true, but that's why I'm telling you. You're asking me what the process should be now. I'm telling you, we've already gone through a lot of experiences. We've seen what has happened, and my argument is very simple, Sam. I'm saying that we now have to do things a bit differently from what we've always done. We cannot continue doing the same thing and expecting a different kind of results. That's why my argument is very simple. I'm saying this time around, it should require, by the time that you're determining who the president of this country is going to be, it should not be one signature signing and saying, I have gone through this and I've now declared that so-and-so is the winner.
Well, the Constitution in Article 138, Article 10 says, within 7 days after the presidential election, the chairperson of the IEBC shall declare the result of the election.
You're just saying what I'm saying.
What should that mean?
Then we should change that. It should not be the chairperson. It should be the commission led by the chairperson.
But you see also, in the same constitution on 38 2C says, after counting the votes in the polling stations, the IEBC shall tally and verify the count and declare the result.
I like that, the IEBC. You see, IEBC versus a commissioner.
So work already.
Okay? The chairperson.
So this is the same article actually.
Yes.
138 2C. Then 10 assigns the responsibility of now the final declaration to read the outcome of the election to the chairperson.
You just read the first paragraph. What was it? The first one that you read, you say the chairperson.
Yes, that was 138.10.
138.10, you say the chairperson, right?
Yes.
Shall declare. Can I read it again for him?
Sure.
Sorry. Or can you read it for me, please?
Okay.
It's easier.
138. It should be 10.
First part.
The first part.
Yeah. This is not the first part. Okay, let me go chronologically.
I'm just saying the first part.
138 2C is, in a presidential election, after counting the votes in the polling stations, the IEBC shall tally and verify the count and declare the result.
Yes.
Okay.
Then, at 138.10A says that within 7 days after the presidential election, the chairperson of the IEBC shall declare the result of the election.
And that is what I'm arguing. I'm saying that based on our experiences, this constitution should not be static. It has to change. Our experiences, because of the fact that one individual has declared who is going to be the president of this country, it has taken us to the trenches. It has taken us to the streets. We've wasted 2.5 years, all of us fighting on a daily basis because of what happened in 2022. So we need to change that. I'm just saying we have to change that. We have to think of a way of amending that. We're all talking about having a referendum in this country.
Amending the constitution.
Yes, we amend the constitution and put that responsibility to the people. It should say that the commission, all the commissioners.
So if you say the commission, so who will make this declaration? So
the commissioners, there's 7 commissioners.
No, that's fine. So the election is over. Everything has been tallied and verified.
Yeah.
This is the final decision.
Yes.
Who should declare it?
Well, it should declare, we should amend that provision of the constitution to say that you can actually say the chairperson will read, but after it has been agreed upon by all the commissioners.
That's part of it. Just climax. Let me climax it. Then we can check the what IBC is speaking about today, because IBC is there and then nasema haibanduki ngo. IBC is there na haibanduki ngo. So let us check out this and then we call so that we can speak generally towards the IEBC story.
And reconstituting the National Electoral Management Body. UDA Party Electoral Disputes Resolution Committee Chair Joy Brenda Mudivo found herself on her defense, fending off allegations of conflict of interest over her ties to the ruling party as she made her case for the IEBC chairperson position. As Emmanuel Toh reports, she was among 4 candidates who faced the selection panel today, each vying to lead the country's electoral commission.
Legislative expertise that you...
On day 2 of the 3-day marathon search for the next IEBC chairperson, legal minds took center stage, with more lawyers stepping forward for vetting. Each candidate leaned on their legal expertise, hoping to prove they have what it takes to steer the country's electoral commission. United Democratic Alliance UDA Party Electoral Disputes Resolution Committee chairperson Joy Brenda Mudivo, a known close ally of President William Ruto, faced tough questions over alleged conflict of interest as she vied for the coveted position of IEBC chairperson.
It is not about the Murengo. Here I'm offering myself as a Kenyan, not for tokenism, not for show, not for bonga points. I actually think I've got something to offer my country, and that's why I've stepped forward.
Mudivo, whose candidature was challenged in court by the Operation Linda Jamil lobby group for being a member of the Kenya Power and Lighting Company KPLC, saying that in fact, her current posting has given her the requisite skills to take over the mantle.
I'm not one to quote unquote, mix my legs. What is right, and what is not, is not. I have been one person who has upheld my professionalism to the hilt.
Former Judiciary Deputy Registrar Francis Kakai Kissinger was also put on the spot over allegations of abuse of office and corruption in a procurement process during his tenure in the judiciary as he defended his bid for the IEBC chairperson position.
If the panelists are having questions, you can rest assured Kenyans are also having questions. Look at them and tell them why, despite all those clouds on integrity, they still should trust you.
I left that judiciary with my understanding that I was a victim, with my understanding that you can be in a place of work and something hits you without knowing where that thing came from. Not all public officers, ladies and gentlemen, not all public officers who are dragged and taken to court are guilty.
Former Nairobi County Secretary Jacob Ngwele also questioned about his controversial exit from the county amidst heated legal battles.
We were arrested, Kamata Friday. We went to court. We were charged. And the court, we were acquitted under Section 210, which means you had no case to answer.
Serial government job applicant lawyer Erastus Edunge Thekon, who was the first to face the selection panel on Tuesday, pitched his relatively younger age as an advantage in his bid to secure the IEBC chairperson position.
At the age of 48, going to 49, I think this is the prime. This is the best age any professional can wish for, to be in positions of higher calling and higher responsibility.
The vetting for the chairperson closes Thursday before ushering a month-long search for the 6 commissioners. Emmanuel Toh, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
I think we have seen the story of IBC, and the IBC is getting too much talk because of the pressure and everything and all that's going on. And people are not having now the faith with IEBC anymore. But we hope that IEBC will turn up and bring an amazing turn up, bring another turn up, because I normally say more of the time it takes a lot of time to gather the trust, but it can take just a few days to lose the trust. So I want to welcome you all and say that for those who have enabled these, for those who have enabled us to reach this point, not much to say, but I appreciate you. Let us get to another level whereby we'll check it in to another level. I want to go engage another gear, go to another level, and try to do the analyzation and try to do the 1, 2, 3 or the analyzation of the day by. I want to give you a little bit of some sort of the summary of the day, whereby I'll check about the 3 things whereby the IBC has communicated, but most of the all is about the story of the schools and the curriculum. The IEBC is getting too much, but please let us help one another and let us help our kids so that they can be able to get a good education. Also, Kenyans should be ready for the chair for the IEBC, and also should be ready for everything that is happening, because some of the things that are happening that we are not even ready for them, but they just come abruptly. So please, just be careful. Let us try at least stay to the track, be perpendicularly, and everything will be good. I don't have much to say, but to bring the first segment to an end, let us join up for the second segment as we are rolling it up.
Sound